The galaxy was vast, full of countless stars, planets, and civilizations. Across its endless arms, great empires rose and fell, always struggling for dominance. But at the very center of these rivalries stood a single neutral place, Valor Prime, a massive station built long ago by an unknown ancient race. No empire claimed ownership. No fleet dared attack it. It was a place where even enemies could meet without fear of war. It was here that the 5 great powers had gathered. Each empire sent its most respected commander, each determined to show that their fleet ruled supreme. They did not gather for diplomacy or peace, they gathered for pride. The chamber at the top of the station was wide and circular, with shining floors of polished silver. Around it stood tall windows that displayed the stars. 5 figures entered, each very different in form, yet all carrying the same confidence in their steps. The first to arrive was Overlord Zarvek of the Tharn Dominion. He was tall, with shimmering scales that reflected blue light, and his long tail moved behind him as he walked. The Tharn were known for their survival in extreme conditions. Zarvek wasted no time, speaking loudly as soon as he entered. "Our warship stands unmatched," he declared, his voice echoing in the chamber. "It can stand against the fire of a star itself. Let the others boast, but none can deny the power of Tharn engineering." The second to enter was Warlord Drokath of the Krelak Horde. He was heavy and broad, his body armored by nature itself. The Krelak believed only in brute force, and Drokath carried himself like a conqueror. He laughed at Zarvek's words. "Your ship may hide behind its shields," Drokath said, "but shields only delay defeat. The Horde's dreadnought brings 100 plasma cannons to battle, 100 suns in our hands ready to burn any who stand in our way." The third to arrive was Commander Siloran of the Zorith Confederacy. Unlike the loud Tharn and Krelak, Siloran spoke softly, almost like a whisper. Her form shimmered slightly, for the Zorith were masters of stealth. She wore flowing robes that seemed to blend into the air. "Raw firepower is crude," she said calmly. "The Confederacy believes in precision. Our ships vanish into the void. No sensor can track us, no eye can see us. By the time the enemy realizes we are there, it is already too late." The fourth was Director Malvek of the Aerith Syndicate. He was thin, almost fragile in appearance, with long fingers that moved as though typing invisible keys. The Aerith were not known for strength or stealth. They were feared for their control of systems and machines. Malvek smiled in a way that carried no warmth. "Stealth and guns mean nothing when systems fail," Malvek said. "One code, one signal, and your ships are ours to control. The Syndicate has mastered the art of digital war. No weapon can fire, no shield can hold, when our will enters your systems." Last to arrive was High Marshal Valorn of the Velaran Ascendancy. Tall, armored, and proud, Valorn walked as though he commanded the very gravity of the room. And perhaps in some way he did. The Velaran ships carried terrifying weapons that manipulated gravity itself, crushing fleets with invisible force. He looked at the others, his eyes glowing with quiet superiority. "Shields can break, cannons can be blocked, cloaks can be revealed, codes can be resisted, but gravity is eternal. We wield the very pull of the universe itself. No fleet has ever survived the touch of the Ascendancy's flagship. None ever will." The chamber fell into silence for a moment. Each alien had spoken, each convinced their ship was supreme. And then the laughter began. It was not laughter of joy, it was laughter of arrogance. Each empire thought the others were fools. Each believed only in their own power. The chamber, once solemn, became filled with mocking voices. But then, a single word broke through their boasting. "Humans." The name came from one of the attendants, a minor envoy who had been recording the meeting. The moment the word was spoken, the chamber stilled. And then almost instantly the silence broke into louder laughter. "Humans?" Zarvek hissed. "The new colony builders? The ones who trade more than they fight?" "Backward creatures," Drokath growled. "They struggle even against pirates. Their fleets are scraps of old ships patched together. They are no empire, no power, nothing worth notice." Siloran tilted her head, her shimmering eyes narrowing. "They are loud in diplomacy, yes, but quiet in strength. What could they bring to this chamber? Certainly not a warship." Malvek smirked, his thin lips curling. "I have seen their codes. Simple, unrefined, vulnerable. Children playing with machines they do not understand. They would not dare step into a gathering such as this." Valorn laughed last, his voice deep and commanding. "If they came, I would show them what true power is. I would crush whatever small vessel they dared call a ship. The laughter continued, echoing through the chamber. To the five great powers, humanity was a joke, an upstart race barely learning how to walk among the stars. But the laughter faded when the station's doors opened once more. A single figure entered. A human. The alien commanders turned in surprise. The human was not dressed in ornate robes or heavy armor, but in simple uniform, dark and plain. He walked calmly, not rushing, not hesitating. His eyes met each of theirs, and though he was smaller in size, his presence did not feel small. He stopped at the center of the chamber. Silence returned. "I am Captain Elias Kane, representing Earth and its colonies," he said. His voice was steady, controlled. "I hear you have gathered to compare your fleets. You invited us, and so here I am." The aliens looked at each other. Some sneered, others smirked. Zarvek was the first to speak. "Human, you waste your breath. This chamber is for the great. Your kind has no warship worthy of such a gathering." Kane did not flinch. "On the contrary," he said, "we do have one, and we will bring it." Drokath laughed so hard the chamber shook with the sound. "One ship? Do you think one ship can stand against the Krelak horde? One ship can end a battle," Kane replied calmly. "And that is all we need." Siloran's voice was cold. "You claim much for a race with so little history in war." Kane met her gaze without blinking. "History does not always decide the future." Malvek leaned forward, his long fingers twitching. "What is this ship called, then? If it is so mighty, surely it has a name." For the first time, Kane allowed a small smile. His answer was simple, yet it carried weight. "It is called the Ark." The chamber grew quiet. The word seemed heavy, even though none of the aliens understood its meaning. The sound of it felt ancient, powerful, mysterious. Valorn broke the silence with a scoff. "A name means nothing. We will see it for what it is, a fragile human toy." Kane did not argue. He only nodded. "Then let us arrange a demonstration. Each of you will bring your greatest ship. We will bring ours. Let us see whose warship truly stands unmatched." The arrogance in the room was thick, yet none of the alien leaders refused. They were too proud, too certain of their own strength. They agreed to the challenge. And so it was decided. The five great empires would bring their mightiest ships, and the humans would bring the Ark. On the edge of a quiet star system, they would demonstrate their power. As the meeting ended, the aliens left with mocking smiles, whispering to themselves about how foolish the humans were to step into such a challenge. But as Captain Kane walked away, there was no fear in his stride. He knew what the others did not. Humanity had never built ships for pride. Humanity built ships for survival, and sometimes survival demanded power that no alien could yet imagine. The agreement was made, but the air in the chamber of Valor Prime still carried the sharp scent of arrogance. The five alien commanders left with pride in their hearts, each imagining the humiliation that awaited the humans. For them, this was no contest, but a chance to laugh at Earth. Captain Elias Kane did not smile as he walked back through the long corridors of the station. He felt the stares of alien attendants who whispered behind his back. He knew what they thought, that he was a fool, that humanity had no place in this contest of titans. But he carried himself with calm resolve because he knew something they did not. Whispers of doubt in the grand station lounges, the alien leaders gathered with their entourages. News of the humans' bold claim spread quickly among the thousands of guests who had come to witness the gathering. The words "the Ark" carried across the halls, and though no one knew what it meant, the very mystery of the name drew attention. But the whispers were full of mockery. "The humans think a single ship can rival the Krelak dreadnought," one Tharn diplomat said with disbelief. "They must be desperate for recognition," replied a Zorith officer, her shimmering form flickering faintly. "A spectacle," Malvek of the Aerith said smoothly, his voice like a knife sliding through silk. "A last attempt to prove themselves before the galaxy forgets their existence." Each empire prepared eagerly for the demonstration. They had no fear, only excitement. To them, this was entertainment, not risk. The five powers prepare on the Krelak flagship. Warlord Drokath stood before his massive warship, Bloodfang, as engineers polished its dark hull. The ship stretched kilometers long, bristling with weapons. He addressed his crew with thunder in his voice. "We will show the galaxy the might of the Horde. Let the humans watch and learn what true power is." In the Tharn hangar, Overlord Zarvek's vessel, Solaris Wrath, gleamed under artificial lights. Its shield generators pulsed with deep blue energy. His engineers bowed as Zarvek hissed with pride. "Let the others fire their weapons. We will walk through fire untouched. The Dominion's strength is eternal." Far away in the shadows of the Zorith docks, Commander Saloran inspected her ship. Silent Veil. Its sleek body seemed almost to melt into the darkness around it. She whispered to her officers, "Visibility is weakness. We will disappear, and they will remember why the Confederacy always strikes unseen." Director Malvek of the Arith Syndicate walked among endless rows of data cores and control drones aboard his ship. Mindbreaker. He moved his fingers like a conductor guiding an orchestra. "Machines are slaves to our will. Let them bring their weapons, their shields, their cloaks. None matter when their systems bow to us." Finally, High Marshal Velorn stood aboard his massive flagship, Celestial Hammer. Its gravity projectors hummed, bending space itself around the ship. His voice carried across his command deck like the words of a prophet. "Gravity is law, and we are the lawgivers. The Ark, whatever it may be, will fall under the same truth all others have learned. No one escapes the ascendancy. The 5 ships, each a legend in its own empire, prepared for the coming demonstration. Humanity's quiet response, while the alien empires prepared with noise, boasting and showmanship, humanity worked in silence. Captain Kane returned to the human delegation's quarters on Valor Prime. Inside, a few officers waited, wearing the same plain uniforms as him. There were no shining jewels, no servants, no armies of attendants. Just a small team of calm professionals. One officer, Commander Lyra Holt, looked at Kane with steady eyes. "They mock us already," she said. "The whispers are everywhere. Do you think they will still laugh when they see her?" Kane allowed himself a small smile. "They won't laugh for long, but they will remember." The humans made no further comments. They sent no propaganda, no warnings, no threats. They only transmitted a short message to the assembly of the 5 empires. The Ark will arrive. Nothing more, nothing less. The day of the demonstration, a week later, the chosen star system was ready. It was a quiet place, an unclaimed system with a single dying star and scattered asteroids. The perfect arena for a show of power. Thousands of observers from across the galaxy filled the skies around the system, their small ships forming a loose circle at a safe distance. Every corner of the galaxy wanted to witness the great display. The 5 great empires positioned their flagships in orbit, each taking turns to showcase their abilities. First came the Tharn Dominion. The Solaris Wrath moved close to the dying star. With a surge of energy, its shields activated, glowing like a second sun. The ship hovered in the fiery storm, unshaken, while asteroids melted around it. The crowd of observers cheered, impressed by its resilience. Next, the Krellic horde took their turn. The Bloodfang aimed its countless plasma cannons at a nearby asteroid field. With a deafening barrage, the rock shattered into dust, explosions painting the void with fire. Drokath roared with laughter, proud of his ship's destructive fury. Then the Zorith Confederacy displayed the stealth of the Silent Veil. The ship faded from sight, vanishing completely. Observers strained their sensors, but nothing could trace it. Minutes later, it reappeared on the opposite side of the system, undetected the entire time. The crowd whispered in awe. After that, the Arith Syndicate gave their display. The Mindbreaker transmitted a single coded signal toward an automated defense station nearby. Instantly, the station's guns turned against themselves, firing wildly before shutting down completely. Malvek smiled coldly as his ship reclaimed control, showing the power of their digital dominance. Finally, the Velaran Ascendancy prepared their demonstration. The Celestial Hammer activated its gravity projectors, locking onto a massive asteroid half the size of a moon. Slowly, the rock twisted, cracked, and collapsed under the invisible pull until it broke apart entirely. The sheer force left the crowd silent in awe before erupting into cheers. Each empire had proven its might. The galaxy was impressed, and all waited eagerly for the humans to take their turn. The Ark's arrival, the observers grew restless. The 5 commanders smirked, certain the humans would not even appear. But then the void rippled. Something massive emerged from hyperspace. At first, it was only a shadow, a dark outline against the stars. Then it came into full view, the Ark. It dwarfed even the largest of the alien flagships. Its surface was smooth, black, without shining lights or colors. No weapons bristled from its hull. No glowing shields were visible. It looked plain, almost ancient, and yet its very presence seemed to pull at the air, like gravity itself bent around it. The observers fell silent. Even the alien commanders, so full of arrogance before, felt an unease they did not understand. On the bridge of the Ark, Captain Kane stood at the command seat. His crew worked silently, each movement calm and precise. There was no need for speeches. He opened a single communication channel to the gathered fleets. His words were few. "We are ready." The challenge accepted. The other commanders laughed again, though their laughter carried less strength than before. Velorn of the Velarin Ascendancy scoffed. "Very well, human. Show us what this shadow of yours can do. Let us see if it can even match the smallest of our ships." Kane did not answer. He did not need to. The Ark moved slowly into position, facing the 5 greatest warships of the galaxy. The demonstration was about to begin, but deep inside, none of the alien commanders could ignore the strange feeling rising in their hearts. For the first time in centuries, pride and certainty were touched by something else. It was not respect. It was not admiration. It was something colder, sharper, and far more dangerous. It was fear. The system was silent except for the hum of engines and the steady pulse of thousands of ships watching from afar. The 5 alien empires had shown their power. Each commander convinced their display had proven superiority. Now all eyes turned to the humans. The Ark drifted into position, its immense form casting a dark shadow across the nearby asteroid belt. To the spectators, it looked more like a moving mountain than a ship. No bright colors, no glowing energy signatures, no visible weapons. Just silence and presence. Captain Elias Kane stood calmly on its bridge. Around him, his officers waited for his order. The galaxy was watching, expecting humans to fail, or at least show nothing impressive compared to the spectacles just witnessed. "Begin," Kane said quietly. The Tharn Dominion test overlord Zarvek hissed over the comms, his scaled face appearing on the wide holoscreen before Kane. "The first test should be of shields. Let us see if your vessel can endure the fire of a star." His flagship, the Solaris Wrath, moved forward, glowing with its powerful blue shields. Already Zarvek's pride swelled. His ship had sat inside a star's corona without damage. He expected the humans to falter immediately. Kane gave no reply. The Ark shifted slightly, aligning itself closer to the dying star. Without activating visible shields, it descended into the storm of plasma. Observers leaned forward in shock as the Ark disappeared behind the waves of fire. For a moment, all that could be seen was the raging starstorm. Then the dark silhouette reemerged, untouched, unharmed. No shield glow, no energy spikes, just calm movement as if the storm were nothing but mist. The crowd erupted in confusion. Zarvek's scaled hand tightened into a fist. "Impossible," he whispered. His own ship's shield strained under the star's heat. Yet the human vessel seemed to ignore it entirely. The Ark drifted back into position, silent as if nothing had happened. "The Krellic horde test enough tricks," roared Warlord Drokath, his voice shaking the comms. "Let us see how you endure the fire of true weapons." His ship, the Bloodfang, turned its massive cannons toward the Ark. With a thunderous command, he ordered a full barrage. Plasma fire streaked across space, hundreds of blazing lances slamming into the Ark's hull. The light was so bright that many spectators shielded their eyes. Explosions rippled across the dark shape of the human ship, engulfing it in a storm of destruction. When the light cleared, the Ark still stood, unharmed. Not a single mark marred its surface. The observers gasped again. Some ships even broadcast their disbelief openly. On the Krellic bridge, Drokath's laughter turned to silence. He slammed a clawed fist against his console. "No vessel survives the Horde's full barrage." "None." But the evidence floated in front of him. The Ark had not even returned fire. Captain Kane spoke calmly, his words cutting through the comms. "Are we finished?" The silence that followed felt heavier than any explosion. The Zorith Confederacy Test Commander Siloran stepped forward, her form shimmering faintly as her voice came over the comms. Unlike Drokath and Zarvek, she did not roar in anger. Her tone was calm, cold, but there was a tightness in it that betrayed unease. "Power is one thing, but precision is another. Let us see if your ship can track us, human." Her vessel, the Silent Veil, shimmered once before vanishing completely. To sensors, to eyes, to every form of detection, it was gone. The spectators murmured with relief. At last, one of the great powers would show superiority. The Zorith had never failed to disappear, but then the Ark moved. Slowly, calmly, as though it had been watching all along. Its dark hull rotated until it faced directly toward the place where the silent veil was hidden. Observers checked their sensors in confusion. No ship was visible there. The silent veil was cloaked perfectly, and yet the Ark's massive frame aimed straight at it, as if it could see what no one else could. Sileran's voice came again, but this time it was tighter, almost forced. How? The Ark did not fire, did not attack, but its slow, steady tracking proved the point. Stealth was useless. For the first time in centuries, the Zorith Confederacy felt exposed. The Aerith Syndicate Test Director Malvek of the Aerith Syndicate leaned forward in his chair, his thin lips curling into a smile. He was not shaken, not yet. Machines can be tricked, he said smoothly. Systems can be corrupted. Let us see if your ship can resist us. The Mindbreaker extended its signal arrays. Bright pulses of code streamed across space, invisible to most eyes but powerful enough to cripple fleets. Defense stations fell in seconds under this power. Warships were turned against their own allies. The Ark's systems flickered for a brief moment. Observers leaned closer, believing they might finally see weakness. Malvek's smile widened as his long fingers danced across his console, flooding the human vessel with layer after layer of code. And then, suddenly, his smile froze. His console sparked. His drones shut down one by one. His signal arrays overheated. The Mindbreaker's lights dimmed as its system struggled. Impossible, Malvek whispered. His control codes were being turned back against him. His own ship resisted his commands, rejecting him like a traitor. On the Ark, Kane gave no order. The ship had defended itself effortlessly, its systems untouchable. Malvek's thin frame shook with fury. For the first time in his career, his code had failed. The Valoran Ascendancy test, finally. High Marshal Velorn stood tall on the bridge of the Celestial Hammer. Unlike the others, he did not rage or whisper. His voice was calm, but there was steel within it. You have resisted shields, firepower, stealth, and code, but now you will face the weight of the universe itself. His flagship activated its gravity projectors. Space trembled as invisible force wrapped around the Ark. Smaller asteroids shattered instantly under the strain, crushed into dust. Even light itself bent around the pull. The observers held their breath. Nothing had ever resisted the Celestial Hammer's gravity weapons. Not moons, not fleets, not even entire stations. The Ark remained still. The pull increased, the projectors straining. The Celestial Hammer's hull groaned as it poured more and more energy into the attack. Space itself seemed to cry out from the force. And yet the Ark did not move. Then slowly the impossible happened. The Celestial Hammer itself began to shift. Its massive body, larger than a city, tilted off course. The gravity beams, instead of dragging the Ark, bent back toward their own source. Velorn's flagship was pulled slightly forward, its engines roaring as it fought the invisible tide. For the first time in his life, Velorn's calm mask cracked. His glowing eyes widened. His hands clenched the railing as he whispered words no Veloran had ever spoken before. We are being pulled. Silence. Across the galaxy, when the demonstration ended, the Ark drifted back into place, as calm as when it had arrived. It had not fired a single shot. It had not revealed a single weapon. And yet, it had overcome everything the five empires had shown. The observers across the system sat in stunned silence. Entire fleets of diplomats, soldiers, and travelers stared in disbelief. For centuries, the five great powers had been the unchallenged rulers of the galaxy. But now, before their eyes, a single human ship had defeated them without effort. On the Ark's bridge, Captain Kane looked at the silent comms screen. He did not smile. He did not gloat. He simply said, "Are there any further tests?" No one answered. The fear of the great powers on. The Solaris wrath, Zarvek's tail lashed angrily against the floor, but his scales felt cold with dread. His invincible shields had meant nothing. On the Bloodfang, Drokath's roar of rage echoed, but even his soldiers avoided his gaze. The Horde's endless firepower had been useless. On the silent veil, Sileran sat in silence, her shimmering form dim. Stealth was meaningless against eyes that saw everything. On the Mindbreaker, Malvek's fingers trembled. His codes, his pride, had been turned against him. For the first time, he felt powerless, and on the celestial hammer, Valorn stood in silence. His crew dared not speak. The Ascendancy's greatest weapon had been reversed, and Valorn knew the truth. Humanity was no longer a minor race to be ignored. They were a force that none had predicted. The demonstration was over. The galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy had seen the impossible. The Ark had faced the 5 greatest warships of the known stars and had stood untouched. It had not fired a single weapon, and yet each empire had been humbled. The observers who came to laugh at humanity now sat in silence. The laughter had died, replaced by whispers of fear. But the demonstration was only the beginning. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would now see the Ark not as a shadow but as a revelation. The silence after the storm. The battlefield system was quiet. No one dared to speak over the comms. Even the proud commanders of the 5 empires said nothing. Their officers avoided their gazes, too afraid to voice the thoughts that hung heavy in their minds. On the Ark's bridge, Captain Elias Kane stood with his hands behind his back, looking out through the main viewport. His crew worked in silence, each officer moving with calm precision. There was no cheering, no celebration. For them, this was not a victory, it was simply proof. Status? Kane asked quietly. System stable, Commander Lyra Holt replied. Her voice carried the same calm as his. No strain recorded. Hull integrity at 100%. Shields, never activated. Kane nodded once. As expected. The watching galaxy in orbit around the demonstration site, thousands of smaller ships hovered. They carried diplomats, traders, explorers, and spies from across the galaxy. Each had expected a show of pride from the 5 great powers. Instead, they had witnessed the rise of something new. Messages flashed across networks faster than light. Reports streamed back to homeworlds. Some carried disbelief, some carried awe, some carried fear. On distant planets, leaders read the first summaries. The Ark is real. The humans have revealed it. It has broken every measure of power. Markets shifted. Military councils gathered. Ordinary citizens whispered the word human with new meaning. The galaxy had thought Earth was young, weak, untested. Now it had to reconsider everything. The 5 commanders in doubt on the Solaris Wrath. Overlord Zarvek paced with restless fury. His scaled tail lashed against the floor. His crew bowed their heads, afraid to speak. Zarvek's pride had been broken. They cheat, he hissed to himself. They must cheat. No ship can ignore a star's heat. But the word sounded hollow even to him. On the Bloodfang, Warlord Drokath smashed his fist against the arm of his command chair. His roar shook the hall. No hull survives a full barrage of the Horde. None? Yet his officers only lowered their eyes. They had all seen it. The Ark had not even been scratched. On the silent veil, Commander Siloran sat perfectly still, her shimmering form dimmer than usual. Her voice was barely a whisper. It saw us, how? For centuries, the Confederacy's cloak had been untouchable. But the Ark had watched them as if they were walking in daylight. On the Mindbreaker, Director Malvek's long fingers twitched nervously. His systems had burned out against the Ark's silence. He had always been certain that every machine could be broken with the right code. Now he was not so sure. And on the celestial hammer, High Marshal Valorn stood at the viewport, staring at the human vessel. His officers looked at him, waiting for his command, but none came. Valorn had no orders to give. His gravity weapons, the pride of the Ascendancy, had not only failed, they had been reversed. For the first time in centuries, the 5 great powers had no answers. The Ark revealed the Ark itself was still. Its black hull absorbed the light of the dying star, its massive body moving slowly like a shadow across the system. It carried no banners, no glowing markings. To the eye, it looked almost plain. Yet every observer knew it was anything but. Some whispered that it was not a ship at all, but a moving fortress. Others believed it was a relic of some forgotten race of builders, rediscovered by humans. And some even wondered if it was alive. Inside, the Ark was a different world. Its halls were wide, made of dark alloys that pulsed faintly with hidden energy. Crew members walked calmly through the corridors, each step measured, each movement purposeful. There were no decorations, no unnecessary lights. The Ark was not built for beauty. It was built for purpose. Its heart was not engines or weapons, but something deeper. A core of unknown technology, silent and stable. Even the crew did not fully understand every detail of its design. It had been the result of centuries of work, research, and survival. Humanity had built it not to boast but to endure. Captain Kane walked those halls often, reminding himself of what it meant. To him, the Ark was not a crown of power. It was a shield, a promise that Earth and its colonies would never bow to others. The galaxy questions, in the days following the demonstration, every corner of the galaxy echoed with the same question. What are the humans planning? The Tharn Dominion held emergency councils. Overlord Zarvek argued with his advisors, demanding explanations. If they have one Ark, they may have more, one general whispered. The Krelak Horde prepared new weapons in secret, though many of their engineers doubted they would matter. Drokath swore loudly that he would crush the humans in war if needed, but in private his growl carried doubt. The Zorith Confederacy withdrew ships from border patrols. If we cannot hide from them, Siloran admitted to her council, then we are vulnerable. The Aerith Syndicate tried again and again to hack into recordings of the Ark, but every attempt failed. Malvek grew more restless by the hour, whispering that the humans had something beyond code, and the Velaran Ascendancy sent their philosophers and scientists to study gravity itself, desperate to understand why their weapons had failed. Velorn, however, said nothing. His silence was heavier than any words. Humanity speaks. After a long pause, the humans finally sent a single message to the galaxy. It was not a threat. It was not a boast. It was only this: we do not seek conquest. We do not seek war. But we will not be underestimated. The message spread quickly. Some believed it was a warning. Others thought it was a lie. But all understood one thing: the humans had declared themselves equals to the great powers and perhaps more. The fear beneath pride? On the Ark's bridge, Kane listened to the reports. He knew the empires were shaken. He also knew fear could be dangerous. Fear might bring respect, but it could also bring aggression. Commander Holt spoke quietly at his side. They will not stay silent. They will want to test us again. Some may even plan to attack. Kane nodded. Let them. We will not strike first, but if they come, they will learn what the Ark truly is. For Kane knew that what the galaxy had seen was only the surface. The Ark had revealed only its silence, not its full strength. If forced, it could show far more. But he hoped it would not come to that. Humanity did not build the Ark to dominate others. They built it so they would never again be vulnerable. The change in the stars across the galaxy, the balance of power shifted. Trade agreements trembled. Military alliances reformed. For centuries, the five empires had stood above all others. Now humanity had entered the stage, and the galaxy would never return to what it had been. Whispers of rebellion grew in smaller worlds. If the humans could challenge the great powers, why couldn't they? Hope spread where fear once ruled. And in the minds of many, one question burned. If this is only one Ark, what else do the humans have? The five commanders meet. Again, weeks later, the five alien commanders met once more at Valor Prime. The chamber was the same, but the atmosphere was not. There was no laughter this time, no boasting. Each sat in silence before the others, pride wounded but not gone. Zarvek's voice was the first to break the silence. We must know how many Arks exist, Drokath growled. It does not matter. Even one is too much. If they turn it against us, the Horde cannot stand, Siloran whispered. Our eyes are useless. We cannot track them. We cannot plan. Malvek's fingers tapped against the table. If they control technology at this level, we cannot win a battle of systems. Valorn, usually the most confident, finally spoke. His voice was calm, but there was no pride in it anymore. We face a danger greater than any war we have fought. Humanity has changed the order of the stars. None of them disagreed. Humanity's quiet strength back aboard the Ark. Captain Kane stood once more at the viewport, looking at the stars. His officers worked in silence. The galaxy was in motion now, stirred by fear and uncertainty. But he remained calm. He whispered to himself, words only his crew could hear. We are not here to rule them. We are here to survive. And in survival, humanity will always endure. The Ark drifted silently through the void, vast and dark, carrying with it the weight of a new future. The five alien empires had once laughed at humanity. Now they could not laugh anymore. The age of underestimation was over. The galaxy had changed, and everyone knew it. Five empires had tested humanity. They had failed. The Ark had stood against their pride, And now whispers of fear spread from star to star. But fear alone was dangerous. Humanity understood this truth. If the galaxy feared too much, it would strike first, hoping to remove the threat before it grew. If the galaxy underestimated again, it would invite destruction. A balance had to be found. And so, the Ark prepared for its next step. Not silence, not boasting, but revelation. The uneasy. Quiet across the galaxy, silence spread like a shadow. No empire moved openly. Trade continued, borders remained, fleets patrolled, but every decision carried tension. Every council meeting ended with the same words. What of the humans? On Valor Prime, Overlord Zarvek paced in his chamber. The Tharn Dominion had always ruled with fear, crushing rivals with fire and steel. Yet he could not forget the Ark's shadow swallowing his proud ship whole. His advisors urged war, but even he hesitated. Warlord Drokath of the Krelak Horde gathered his warriors, his voice still loud with promises of glory. Yet in the quiet of his war hall, he looked at the stars and wondered if glory had finally met its end. Commander Siloran cloaked the Confederacy's borders in layers of secrecy, but she knew it was worthless. The Ark could see through every veil. Her council demanded safety, but she whispered only one answer. There is no hiding now. Director Malvek of the Syndicate tried to pierce the Ark's mystery with endless lines of code, but each attempt collapsed. He spoke less, his thin fingers trembling more often, and High Marshal Valorn of the Ascendancy. He said nothing at all. His silence was deeper than fear. It was the silence of someone who had seen the laws of nature bend and fail. Inside the Archon, the Ark's bridge, Captain Elias Kane stood with his crew. His eyes were steady as he read the reports of the galaxy's movements. The other empires were shaken, but he knew that their fear would not last forever. Pride had a way of blinding even the most cautious rulers. Commander Holt studied the long-range scans. Their fleets are shifting, she reported. Not toward us, not yet, but they're preparing, Kane nodded. They are afraid, and fear always seeks a target. The Ark was not built to conquer, but Kane knew it could not remain silent forever. The galaxy needed to understand what humanity was, and why they had built the Ark. He turned to his crew. It is time to reveal more. A call to the galaxy, the Ark sent out a single message across the stars. It was not a challenge, not a threat. It was an invitation. To the leaders of the 5 empires and to all who listen, humanity does not wish for war. But you must understand who we are. Come to Earth. See for yourselves. The message carried with it coordinates to Earth itself. For the galaxy, this was shocking. No empire revealed its homeworld so openly. To do so was to place it at risk. But humanity was not afraid. The journey to Earth, and so weeks later, 5 ships entered Sol. They were not the proud warships of before. Each empire sent a vessel, smaller, quieter, carrying only their leaders and envoys. They came not with weapons raised, but with eyes wide open. The Ark guided them past Neptune, past Saturn, past Jupiter. And then Earth appeared, blue and green shining against the black of space. The alien leaders had seen thousands of worlds, but this one struck them differently. It was not the size, nor the oceans, nor the mountains. It was the feeling. Earth was alive in a way that could not be measured. They were escorted down to Geneva, where a great hall had been prepared. No soldiers lined the walls. No banners of conquest were displayed. Only simple symbols of peace. The meeting on Earth, Captain Kane stood at the center of the hall. Behind him were representatives of Earth's nations, men and women who had set aside their differences for this moment. The 5 alien leaders entered, each one proud but cautious. Zarvek's scales glimmered under the lights. Drokath's massive frame loomed. Siloran shimmered faintly, her form shifting like mist. Malvek's thin body twitched with nervous energy. Valorn moved like a shadow carved from stone. They faced Kane. Silence filled the hall. At last, Kane spoke. His voice was calm, steady. You came to measure us by war. You failed. Now you will measure us by truth. The revelation of humanity. The Ark had been a mystery to them. Now, Kane explained, it is not a weapon of conquest. It is a vessel of survival. Humanity built the Ark because the universe is not kind. Our world has faced disasters, wars, and near extinction. We learned to endure. We learned to build not for pride but for protection. He paused, letting the words settle. We do not seek to rule. We do not seek to dominate. But understand this. We will never again kneel to another power. The Ark is our promise, that Earth will endure no matter what comes. His words echoed across the hall. The alien leaders listened, each one struggling to hide their emotions. The leader's Respond Overlord Zarvek was the first to speak. His voice was sharp, but less certain than before. You expect us to believe this? That such power is only for defense? Kane met his eyes. Believe what you wish. But know this, the Ark has not fired a single shot. And yet you still fear it, Drokath growled. But there was no laughter in him now. If you are challenged, if the galaxy moves against you, will you use it? Kane's answer was calm but firm. If we are threatened, we will endure. If we are attacked, we will not fall. That is all you need to know. Sileran's voice was soft, almost sad. Then the galaxy must change. For none can hide from you, Malvik muttered. Not code, not shadow, not force. Nothing breaks it. How? Valorn finally spoke, his tone heavy but respectful. It does not matter how. What matters is what they choose to do with it. The warning Kane looked at each of them. This is our warning and our promise. Do not mistake our patience for weakness. Do not mistake our silence for fear. We do not begin wars, but if war is forced upon us, we will end it. He leaned forward, his eyes sharp. And if any empire dreams of Earth's ashes, they will find only their own. The words struck like thunder. The leaders shifted, but none argued. For in their hearts they knew it was true. The choice. The meeting ended with no treaty, no alliance, no open friendship. But it ended with something far more powerful. Understanding. The 5 leaders returned to their ships carrying the weight of what they had seen and heard. They returned not as conquerors but as witnesses. In the following months, the galaxy shifted again. Borders remained, but wars slowed. Fleet still patrolled, but with caution. For now, none wished to test the humans a second time. The Ark continued to drift among the stars, silent and patient, watching. Humanity did not expand recklessly, nor did they threaten others. But every empire knew, if ever provoked, the Ark would rise again. Humanity's legacy on Earth. Children grew up hearing stories of the Ark. Some dreamed of joining its crew. Others dreamed of building new vessels, each one a shield for humanity's future. Kane often stood at the Ark's viewport looking at the stars. He knew the galaxy's fear would not last forever. Pride would return. Greed would grow. But humanity was ready, for they had revealed themselves not as conquerors, not as victims, but as survivors. And in survival, humanity was unmatched. The whisper among the stars in distant spaceports, travelers spoke in hushed tones. 5 empires boasted of their battleships, they said, until they saw the Ark, and after that day none ever boasted again. Some spoke with fear, some with respect, and some with hope. For the galaxy now knew the truth. The humans had arrived, and they were here to stay.